If you had to guess which 3 teams had the best offense in the NBA since the start of 2023, you'd probably say a team like the Denver Nuggets or the Sacramento Kings, and you'd be right. But what you might not know is that there's another team that's starting to establish themselves as an elite offensive team, and as you might have guessed from the thumbnail and title of the video, that team is none other than the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are recording a whopping 121.9 points per 100 possessions, behind only the Kings, who are recording a 126 offensive rating since January 1st. What's arguably just as impressive is the fact that the Thunder are recording a plus 10.8 net rating, good for the second best net rating of 2023 thus far. For all of the criticism and flack that Sam Presti and the OKC organization as a whole have gotten for their rebuild, they currently hold the 12th seed and are only a game and a half back from the 6th seed in the Western Conference. This is only year 3 of the rebuild, and they're on pace to, at the very least, make a meaningful push for the play-in tournament. And they don't even have Chet Holmgren back yet. Things have been clicking for OKC recently, with their lineup starting to take a more clear and cohesive shape, and a supercharged offense that's not just maximizing the strengths of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but showcasing just how much young talent this team has at its disposal. To really drive home just how much better this team is compared to last year's iteration of the Thunder, OKC was dead last in 3-point percentage during the 2021-22 season, with a 3-point percentage of 32.3%. This season, they're up to 35.7%. And since the beginning of January 2023, they're up to 40.1%, the third best efficiency in the NBA over that span. Now, it's definitely arguable that 3-point shooting like this might not be sustainable, but at the very least, it's a promising sign that this team has been able to address the concerns in regards to perimeter shooting, and steady, meaningful improvements have been made. Their offense has been firing on all cylinders when they've been putting out one particular lineup. This lineup consists of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Lu Dort, Josh Giddey, and Mike Muscala. This lineup clocks an offensive rating of 124.6, a defensive rating of 106, which comes out to a plus 18.6 net rating. When you look at how this lineup has been performing since the start of the new year, though, they're recording a plus 23.7 net rating, the 4th best of any 5-man lineup in the NBA since January 1st. The interesting part of this team is that, for the most part, they're not really operating with what many would consider a true center. Yeah, they have Mike Muscala, but he's definitely not a particularly defensive-oriented big, and the Thunder don't really rely much on things like pick and rolls to generate their points. As I've covered in my video on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their offense is built around how Shai is able to collapse defenses with the threat of his drives in order to open up opportunities on the perimeter for his teammates. When you consider how poor of a 3-point shooting team OKC was last year, it's easy to understand why they weren't winning a ton of games. Even if Shai is collapsing defenses and making those kickouts to his teammates on the perimeter, it doesn't matter if they're not able to knock down the shots. Now that OKC has developed into a relatively reliable 3-point shooting team, their offense is understandably looking better. Outside of just 3-point shooting though, OKC's offense seems to be predicated on a few key focal points. 1, only a few guys are supposed to be doing much dribbling at any given time. Guys like Shai, Josh Giddey, and Jalen Williams, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. 2, if you're not one of those few guys, you have 3 options. A, shoot the ball. B, drive and either finish or kick it out. Or C, give the ball up to somebody else. It's very much an offense that emphasizes quick decision making and limits the amount of stagnation as much as possible, and it's working really, really well. We can see that on display during this possession with Muscala sending it to Giddey before immediately screening for him to drive up the middle. Giddey passes it to J-Dub, who immediately drives before sending it out to Dort, who again drives to the interior before ultimately getting the finish. Then on this possession, J-Dub drives, kicks it out to Kenrich, and that's followed by a long string of extra passes around the perimeter to just wear down the defense before ultimately culminating into a catch-and-shoot corner 3 from Dort. Another aspect of OKC's offense that's being leveraged more and more is the pick-and-pop chemistry between Shai and Mike Muscala. Here, it's executed really well with Shai sending Moose the behind-the-back pass for the shot. Then the defense is going to overplay the pick and pop, and with OKC spaced out to the perimeter and Vucevic staying home on Muscala, it leaves the paint open for Shai to take Caruso one-on-one to the basket for the finish. There's also tons and tons of dribble handoffs, which is proving to be an incredibly effective approach for OKC. They're scoring 1.06 points per possession off of handoffs, which is the third best mark in the NBA, behind the Hornets and the Kings with 1.09 and 1.07 respectively. Now, I've mentioned him a couple of times, but I gotta talk a little bit more in depth about Jalen Williams because he has been a huge factor in elevating OKC to the new heights that they've seemingly reached lately. In my opinion, J-Dub has been a clear-cut all-rookie first-team caliber player this season. He's been a fantastic offensive contributor, being one of the few guys on the roster that Mark Daigneault seems to be okay with taking on some more ball handling responsibilities. J-Dub is also a fantastic passer, serving as a tertiary playmaker behind SGA and Josh Giddey. He's really adding to the Thunder's emphasis on driving to the basket and warping defenses down low. As a matter of fact, of all rookies attempting at least 3 shots in the restricted area this season, Jalen Williams is shooting the second best with a field goal percentage of 72.6% behind only Walker Kessler. Jalen Williams is not a center. Jalen Williams is a 6'5" guard forward hybrid. For him to be as effective as he is on the inside is highly unusual and a testament to why the Thunder took him with the 12th overall pick in this most recent draft. He's got the ability to finish through multiple defenders at the rim, and he's really good at altering the length of his strides when he has a defender on his hip in order to generate an extra bit of space to beat his man to the rim. He can also take off from further out from the basket so that his defender doesn't have enough time to contest him by the time his shot is already at the rim. I also love this thing that he does where he'll have the ball near the corner with a guy like Muscala, and he'll fake the handoff to leave the defense in the dust so that he can get a lane to the rim for the finish. It's tough to say exactly what his ceiling is as a player, especially because he's operating more as a complementary piece alongside Shai and Giddey, and his role may change even more when Chet Holmgren is back next season. But right now, he's shown a ton of promise that he can be a high-level starter and contributor for OKC as they start to emerge as more and more of a threat to make the playoffs. Another player that I want to point out in particular when it comes to their increased success from the perimeter is Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe was cut by the Philadelphia 76ers last year, and OKC picked him up, and they've been giving him more and more opportunities, and it's paying dividends. Now, I don't really know why Philadelphia let him go in the first place, but after seeing what he's been doing for OKC, it's really hard to imagine why he was cut. In the 19 games where Isaiah Joe has played at least 15 minutes this season, he's averaging 10.3 points per game on a ridiculously high 68.4% true shooting. You hear that true shooting percentage and you might think that he's just a paint scorer or an interior-centric guy, but he's not. He's doing this on 5.3 3-point attempts per game, and he's shooting 46% from 3. Isaiah Joe is on a contract for less than $2 million a year for the next 2 seasons, and he's already proving to be a high-level contributor to this team's success. He's probably the most underrated signing by any team this year, but he's just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to why their offense has become so incredibly effective lately. Now, on the defensive end, the Thunder are executing surprisingly well for a team that doesn't really have a true center. This is largely due to the fact that they consistently put out lineups full of size and length. What they lack in a true defensive matchup against larger big men, they make up for with hounding perimeter players and sheer foot speed to recover and provide help when they need to. The fact that their defense has been as reliable as it has should only inspire more confidence in their defensive approach when they get Chet Holmgren back. Chet is going to do wonders for adding more of an interior presence, and he's an exceptional weak side help defender. Considering this team is already so defensively sound, there's not really anywhere to go but up. It's definitely time for OKC to have some real discussions about what this team can do this season. On one hand, this upcoming draft class is one that has general managers salivating, especially to have the chance to get a player like Victor Wembanyama. But OKC might be at the point where it's past time to be thinking about setting yourself up for the best lottery odds, and maybe it's time to start seeing if you can get some playoff experience before really fleshing out the roster this offseason and making moves to build out this roster into something more akin to a contender rather than a young rebuilding team. With how much flack OKC got as an organization for tanking, something that plenty of other teams are guilty of, this is looking like it's going to be a fairly short rebuild. It's been less than 3 years since the Thunder were in the playoffs, and given the progress that they've made in such a short amount of time, the path back to contention is looking shorter and shorter by the minute. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, let me know in the comments and be sure to leave a like and subscribe. That's the #1 way to support me and help me continue making content. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.